From 73 years ago, it's The Doughnuts from Homer Price by Robert McCloskey. One Friday night in November, Homer overheard his mother talking on the telephone to Aunt Agnes over in Centerburg. "I'll stop by with the car about half an hour, and we can go to the meeting together," she said, because tonight was the night the Ladies' Club was meeting to discuss plans for a box social and to knit and sew for the Red Cross. "I think I'll come along and keep Uncle Ulysses company while you and Aunt Agnes are at the meeting," said Homer. So after Homer had combed his hair and his mother had looked to see if she had her knitting instructions in the right size needles, they started for town. Homer's Uncle Ulysses and Aunt Agnes have a very up-and-coming lunchroom over in Centerburg, just across from the courthouse on the town square. Uncle Ulysses is a man with advanced ideas and a weakness for labor-saving devices. He equipped the lunchroom with automatic toasters, automatic coffee maker, automatic dishwasher, and an automatic donut maker, all just the latest thing in labor-saving devices. Aunt Agnes would throw up her hands and sigh every time Uncle Ulysses bought a new labor-saving device. Sometimes she became unkindly disposed toward him for days and days. She was of the opinion that Uncle Ulysses just frittered away his spare time over at the barber shop with the sheriff and the boys. So, what was the good of a labor-saving device that gave you more time to fritter? When Homer and his mother got to Centerburg, they stopped at the lunchroom, and after Aunt Agnes had come out and said, "My, how that boy does grow," which was what she always said, she went off with Homer's mother in the car. Homer went into the lunchroom and said, "Howdy, Uncle Ulysses." "Oh, hello, Homer, you're just in time," said Uncle Ulysses. "I've been going over this automatic donut machine, oiling the machinery and cleaning the works. Wonderful things, these labor-saving devices." "Yep," agreed Homer, and he picked up a cloth and started polishing the metal trimmings while Uncle Ulysses tinkered with the inside workings. "Oof, oof," sighed Uncle Ulysses, and "look here, Homer, you've got a mechanical mind. See if you can find where these two pieces fit in. I'm going across to the barber shop for a spell, because there's something I've got to talk to the sheriff about. There won't be much business here until the double feature is over, and I'll be back before then." Then Uncle Ulysses went out the door and said, "Homer, after you've got the pieces in place, would you mind mixing up a batch of donut batter and putting it in the machine? You can turn the switch and make a few donuts to have on hand for the crowd after the movie, if you don't mind." "Okay," said Homer. "I'll take care of everything." A few minutes later, a customer came in and said, "Good evening, Bud." Homer looked up from putting the last piece in the donut machine and said, "Good evening, sir. What can I do for you?" "Well, young feller, I'd like a cup of coffee and some donuts," said the customer. "I'm sorry, mister, but we won't have any donuts for about half an hour until I can mix some dough and start this machine. I could give you some very fine sugar rolls instead." "Well, Bud, I'm in no real hurry, so I'll just have a cup of coffee and wait around a bit for the donuts. Fresh donuts are always worth waiting for, is what I always say." "Okay," said Homer, and he drew a cup of coffee from Uncle Ulysses' super automatic coffee maker. "Nice place you got here," said the customer. "Oh, yes," replied Homer. It's a very up-and-coming lunchroom with all the latest improvements." "Yes," said the stranger. Must be a good business. I'm in business, too. A traveling man in outdoor advertising. I'm a sandwich man. Mr. Gabby's my name." "My name is Homer. I'm glad to meet you, Mr. Gabby. It must be a fine profession, traveling and advertising sandwiches." "Oh, no," said Mr. Gabby. "I don't advertise sandwiches. I just wear any kind of an ad. One sign in front and one sign behind, this way, like a sandwich. You know what I mean?" "Oh, I see. That must be fun. And you travel, too?" asked Homer as he got out the flour and the baking powder. "Yeah, I ride the rods between jobs on freight trains. You know what I mean?" "Yes, but isn't that dangerous?" asked Homer. "Of course, there's a certain amount of risk, but you take any method of travel these days, it's all dangerous. You know what I mean? Now take airplanes, for instance." Just then a large, shiny black car stopped in front of the lunchroom, and a chauffeur helped the lady out of the rear door. They both came inside, and the lady smiled at Homer and said, "We've stopped for a light snack. Some donuts and coffee would be simply marvelous." Then Homer said, I'm sorry, ma'am, but the donuts won't be ready until I make this batter and start Uncle Ulysses' donut machine. Well, now, aren't you a clever young man to know how to make donuts? Well, blushed Homer, I've really never done it before, but I've got a receipt to follow. Now, young man, you simply must allow me to help. You know, I haven't made donuts for years, but I know the best recipe for donuts. It's marvelous, and, well, we really must use it. But, ma'am, said Homer, now just wait till you taste these donuts, said the lady. Do you have an apron? She asked, and she took off her fur coat and her rings and her jewelry and rolled up her sleeves. Charles, she said to the chauffeur, hand me that baking powder. That's right, young man. We'll need some nutmeg. So Homer and the chauffeur stood by and handed things and cracked the eggs while the lady mixed and stirred. Mr. Gabby sat on his stool, sipped his coffee, and looked on with great interest. There, said the lady, when all the ingredients were mixed. Just wait till you taste these donuts. It looks like an awful lot of batter, said Homer, as he stood on a chair and poured it into the donut machine with the help of the chauffeur. It's about 10 times as much as Uncle Ulysses ever makes. But wait till you taste them, said the lady with an eager look and smile. Homer got down from the chair and pushed a button on the machine marked Start. Rings of batter started dropping into the hot fat. After a ring of batter was cooked on one side, an automatic gadget turned it over and the other side would cook. Then another automatic gadget gave the donut a little push, and it rolled neatly down a little chute, all ready to eat. That's a simply fascinating machine, said the lady as she waited for the first donut to roll out. Here, young man, you must have the first one. Now, isn't that just too delicious? Isn't it simply marvelous? Yes, ma'am, it's very good, replied Homer, and the lady handed donuts to Charles and to Mr. Gabby and asked if they didn't think they were simply divine donuts. It's an old family recipe, said the lady with pride. Homer poured some coffee for the lady and her chauffeur and for Mr. Gabby, and a glass of milk for himself. Then they all sat down at the lunch counter to enjoy another few donuts apiece. I'm so glad you enjoy my donuts, said the lady. But now, Charles, we really must be going. If you will just take this apron, Homer, and put 24 donuts in a bag to take along, we'll be on our way. And, Charles, don't forget to pay the young man. She rolled down her sleeves and put on her jewelry, and then Charles managed to get her into her big fur coat. Good night, young man. I haven't had so much fun in years. I really haven't, said the lady. And she went out the door and into the big shiny car. Those are sure good donuts, said Mr. Gabby as the car moved off. You bet, said Homer. Then he and Mr. Gabby stood and watched the automatic donut machine make donuts. After a few dozen more donuts had rolled down the little chute, Homer said, I guess that's about enough donuts to sell to the after-theater customers. I'd better turn the machine off for a while. Homer pushed the button marked Stop, and there was a little click, but nothing happened. The rings of batter kept right on dropping into the hot fat, and an automatic gadget kept right on turning them over, and another automatic gadget kept right on giving them a little push, and the donuts kept right on rolling down the little chute, all ready to eat. That's funny, said Homer. I'm sure that's the right button. He pushed it again, but the automatic donut maker kept right on making donuts. Well, I guess I have to put one of those pieces back. I must have put one of those pieces in backwards, said Homer. Then it might stop if you pushed the button marked Start, said Mr. Gabby. Homer did. The donuts kept rolling down the little chute, just as regular as a clock can tick. I guess we could sell a few more donuts, said Homer, but I better telephone Uncle Ulysses over at the barber shop. Homer gave the number, and while he waited for someone to answer, he counted 37 donuts roll down the little chute. Finally, someone answered. Hello? This is the the barber shop. Oh, hello, Sheriff. This is Homer. Can I speak to Uncle Ulysses? Well, he's playing pinochle right now, said the sheriff. Anything I can tell him? Yes, said Homer. I pushed the button marked Stop on the donut machine, but the rings of batter kept right on dropping into the hot fat. And the automatic gadget keeps right on turning them over, and another automatic gadget keeps giving them a little push, and the donuts keep right on rolling down the little chute. It won't stop. Okay, hold the wire, and I'll tell him. Then Homer looked over his shoulder and counted another 21 donuts roll down the little chute, all ready to eat. And then the sheriff said, He'll be right over. Just gotta finish this hand. That's good, said Homer. Goodbye, Sheriff. And I'm going to stop there, and we'll finish it in a second video.